Okay, guys, so I told some of you I wasn't going to be there today, but here's kind of the plan for today. We're going to go through a few problems of the dividing fractions in word problems. I'm going to walk you through the first half of this assignment, and then the second half you have to finish on your own. Now, the way this is going to work is you're going to have an assignment, and that assignment is going to have at the top, it'll have these questions that we're looking at right now. And then below that, it will say question one, A, B, C, D, question two, A, B, C, D, and so on and so on. What you need to do is go through, choose your answers while looking at those questions, show your work on a separate piece of paper or follow along for the first half with me here, and then punch in your answers for the rest of them. So, for starters, question one. A baker has 3/4 pounds of sugar left in his pantry. He needs 1/8 pound for each batch of cookies he makes. What is the greatest number of batches of cookies the baker can make? So, for this problem and all of these problems, our goal is to figure out which number makes more sense to divide. Does it make sense to take our 1/8 uh, of a pound of sugar to make a batch of cookie and divide that by the total amount of sugar? Or does it make sense to take our total amount of sugar and divide that by how much we need for each batch? For this case, we want to divide our 3/4 of a pound of sugar that we have left by 1/8 of a pound of sugar for each batch. So step one, write it. Step two, make sure that there are no mixed numbers and no whole numbers. We've already got that covered. Step three is going to be keep, change, and flip. So we keep our first fraction the same, we change to multiplication, and we flip our second fraction. And then we are left with 3/4 times 8/1. We just multiply straight across 3 times 8, which is 24, and then 4 times 1, which is 4. From here, we would simplify, and uh, for this problem, we can see that it's 24/4, or 24 divided by 4, and that's part of our multiplication facts. 24 divided by 4 equals 6. So the answer to number 1, we would select A for this. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Question 2, dipping back into Unit 1, which for us was area. This one shows a rectangle that has an area of 5 1/8 of a centimeter, and the length of the rectangle is 2 1/4 centimeters. And the question is, what would the width of this rectangle have been? And if you remember, area of a rectangle is just going to be length times width, or base times height. So we know what the area is, we know what the length is, we just don't know the width. So all we're really doing is taking our total area and dividing it by our length. So we're going to be taking 5 1/8, and we'll be dividing that by 2 1/4. So step one, we can't have any mixed numbers. So we're going to take our first fraction and do 5 times 8. That's going to give me 40. 40 plus the 1 on the top gives me 41 in the numerator. Divided by, we got 4 times 2, which is 8. 8 plus 1 would be 9. We have 9/4. All right, now we do keep, change, flip, so keep our first fraction the same, change to multiplication, and flip our second fraction, 4/9. So this bottom one we can do pretty easily. That's going to be 8 times 9, which is 72. For this top one, 41 times 4, we're going to have to write that out off to the side. So 4 times 1 gives me 4. 4 times 4 gives me 16. And I got 164. There we go. So here we are. We have 72 under 164. Obviously not an answer choice, but we do have a chance to eliminate some answers that we know are going to be wrong. So when I'm looking at this problem, I see my answer choices, and I know that 72 has to go into 164. But I know it's not going to go in 7 times. I also know it's probably not going to go in 11 times. It's either going to go in 2 times or 3 times. So when I'm looking at this 164 and 72, I'm just going to start subtracting and see how many times it goes in evenly. Minus 72, and let's see if it goes in once. This gives me 2. I'll have to borrow from here. That gives me 9. So I've got 92. So it went in once so far. Minus 72 again. I am left with a remainder of 20. And it doesn't look like I'll be able to do minus 72 again. So it went in only 2 times. So I already know the whole number is going to be 2, which means the answer for this one has to be A. The beauty about these problems, even when the numbers are huge, like 164 and 72, these are the types of problems that will be multiple choice. So you can use that to your advantage and start eliminating answers that just won't work. We knew that 72 wouldn't go into 164 more than 2 times, and this is the only answer choice that has 2 as the whole number. Everything else isn't going to work. Let's try question number 3. For number 3, we've got a farmer has a rectangular field of an area of 3¼ square mile. The field is half a mile wide. And what is the length? Well, this is exactly the same as problem number 2. It told us the area, it told us one of the dimensions, and it asked us to find the other one. So we are going to be dividing our total area by the width of this field. So we're going to take 3/4 of a mile and divide this by half a mile. So first step, we write it. Second step, make sure there are no mixed numbers and no whole numbers. Check. Step 3 is keep, change, flip. So keep our first fraction the same, change to multiplication, and flip our second fraction. We get 3 times 2 for the top, which is 6, and 4 times 1 for the bottom, which is 4. And then from here, we just start simplifying. We can see that 4 is going to go into 6 one time, and we can show that using our division. 4 goes into 6 only one time, and that will have a remainder of 2. So 1 with a remainder of 2 out of our original denominator. So when we look at this, I don't see, actually, that's not what we're going to have to do because none of these are actually mixed numbers. So I didn't read the problem closely enough. We can simplify this a little bit, but it doesn't want our answer as a mixed number. And yeah, and sometimes that will happen. I don't know if that really would make sense for this farmer in this case, but this is what he wants his answer as. So 6/4 is still not an answer choice, which means we could simplify this by dividing both 6 and 4 by the same number. They're both even numbers, so we can divide 6 and 4 by 2 to get 3/2, which we can see is answer choice C for question 3. So don't be like me, read the actual whole problem before moving on. For number 4, it says Ramon has 2/3 cups of cake mix. If each cake requires 2/9 of a cup of cake mix, then how many cakes can Ramon make using all of the mix? So we have a total amount that he has. We have 2/3 of a cup of cake mix. We know how much of that cake mix we need for each individual cake. Sounds to me we are dividing our total by the amount that we need. So we're going to take our total, which is 2/3 of a cup of cake mix, and we're dividing that into 2/9 segments. Well, once again, step 1, we write it. Step 2, no mixed numbers, no whole numbers. Step 3, keep, change, and flip. So we're going to keep our first fraction the same, change to multiplication, and flip my second fraction. For the top, we are going to multiply 2 times 9 to get 18. And for the bottom, 3 times 2 to get 6. And we have 18 over 6, 18 divided by 6. We can do that one pretty easily. It's going to be 3. So the total number of cakes that Ramon can make using the amount of cake mix he has left is 3 cakes. And at this point, if you are still watching this and still following along, if you're feeling pretty confident, you can actually go ahead and end the video now. You can click off and do the rest of this assignment on your own. Good luck. But if you feel like you need a little bit more help, if you are looking at the problems and you're not feeling confident just yet, I'm going to go over a few more so that way you have a little bit more help. So that's going to be number 4. For number 5, Carl has 6/10 of an hour left to finish his homework. It takes Carl 1/5 of an hour to complete one homework problem. And they kind of show a little diagram here showing 6/10 going on here. Kind of. They tried. And they ask how many homework problems can Carl finish in the time left. So we have a total amount of time. We have 6/10 of an hour. That is how much time Carl has. It requires him 1/5 of an hour just to complete a single problem. So what we are doing is we're dividing 6/10 of our remaining hour by 1/5 of an hour for each problem. So we are going to take 6 over 10. We're going to divide that by 1 over 5. So I don't see any mixed numbers, no whole numbers, so we can continue. Keep, change, and flip. We'll do 6 over 10 times 5 over 1. So we have 6 times 5, which is going to be 30. And on the bottom, 10 times 1, which is going to be 10. So we have 30 over 10, aka 30 divided by 10, which is 3. So Carl has enough time to finish 3 more homework problems in that amount of time. Let's go ahead and try number 6. Mr. Anderson has 4/5 of a pizza left over, and he split it among his 4 children. What fraction of the pizza did each child get? So the question is, are we going to do 4/5 divided by 4, or are we going to do 4 divided by 4/5? If you're thinking that it's 4 divided by 4/5, here's what you're saying. We are going to take 4 children and we are going to split the children for 4/5 of a pizza. That does not make sense. We should take the 4/5 of the pizza and divide the pizza for the 4 children. That makes a lot more sense. So we're going to do 4/5 of a pizza and we're dividing it for 4 children. So step 1, we wrote it. Step 2, make sure there are no whole numbers. So I'm going to rewrite the whole problem with no whole numbers, only improper fractions, divided by 4 over 1. There we go. So step 1, write it. Step 2, make sure that there are no mixed numbers, no whole numbers. Step 3 is keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep our first fraction the same. We will change the multiplication and flip the second fraction and then multiply. So we have 4 times 1 across the top. That is going to be 4. And along the bottom, 5 times 4, which is 20. So now we see if we can simplify this. Well, 4 and 20 are both divisible by 2. And if I do 4 divided by 2, I get 2. And 20 divided by 2, I get 10. Now, just because we did this doesn't mean we're finished. We can simplify this a little bit more. 2 and 10 are still even numbers. So you can still divide both of these by 2 again. So we're going to do 2 divided by 2 to get 1, and 10 divided by 2 to get 5. Answer to this problem was supposed to be 1/5 for number 6. For number 7, it says Alice is a home builder and owns land That is 4/3 of a mile along the shoreline. The town building codes require that each house has a lot of at least 1/15 of a mile. What is the greatest number of houses that Alice can build along the shoreline? So we have a total amount of space, and they are telling us what the minimum amount is. So 1/15, you can kind of picture 15 sections between 1 and 0, and each house is going to be that size. And the question was, well, what if I have 4/3 of a mile? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take our total amount, 4/3, and divide it by the minimum width for each house. So we're going to take 4/3, and we're going to divide that by 1/15. So step 1, we wrote it. Step 2, I don't see any mixed numbers or whole numbers. Step 3 is keep, change, flip. So keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, and flip the second fraction, 15/1. So for this top one, we have 4 times 15. So let's go ahead and write that out, make sure we do it right. 4 times 5 would be 20, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2, which is 6. So 4 times 15 would be 60, and then 3 times 1 would be 3. Now we have to simplify this, or we have to divide this, because we can see our answers have to be whole numbers. Those are the only answer choices we have. So we have to think, how many times will 3 go into 60? Well, let's see. 3 times 5, would that be 60? No, it would not. 3 times 11? Still no. 3 times 20? Maybe. 3 times 45? Maybe a bit too high. You can test it by saying, even if you're not good with your division yet, you can test it with 20 times 3 and see if it works. 20, 20, and 20. So 3 20s added together does give me 60, meaning 60 divided by 3 would equal 20. So number 7, our answer should have been C. So hopefully right about now you're starting to feel a little bit better about these division problems. They're not terribly different from the problems that we just did last week on Friday. But the difference is you have to read a little bit more carefully and piece together the math problem yourself. Now let's talk about question number 8, because this is one of the few problems on the assignment that has an extra step. So number 8, it says Sally owns an ice cream store. Each ice cream scoop contains 2/3 of a cup of ice cream. Each container of ice cream holds 80 cups. If Sally sells ice cream for $3 per scoop, how much will she earn from each container of ice cream? So for this one, our first priority is to figure out what the division part is going to be. We can figure out the money part later. But for right now, it tells us each ice cream scoop is 2/3 of a cup. And it tells us the whole container holds 80 cups. So, same as all the other problems, we're going to take our grand total amount of ice cream, 80 cups, and we are going to divide this by our 2/3 of a cup for each scoop. And this is only going to be step 1. This is not going to be our final answer. But step 1, we write it. Step 2, we have to make sure that there are no whole numbers. So this 80, it's got to go. We got to change that to 80/1, and then rewrite the rest of our problem. Step 3 is going to be keep, change, flip. So 80/1 times 3/2. We have 80 times 3. You can kind of think of that as 8 times 3, just with an extra 0. So 8 times 3 would be 24. So 80 times 3 would be 24 with an extra 0, 240. Down on the bottom, we have 1 times 2. which is going to be 2. Not so hard, that one. Now we have to divide 240 by 2. So we're going to do 240 divided by 2. I can tell you right now what the answer is going to be, but in case you are unsure, here is how this would work. 2 goes into this number 2 only one time. 1 times 2, that gave me 2. Let's subtract it. Carry down my next number. 2 goes into 4 2 times. And 2 times 2 was 4, so we'll subtract it. Carry down this 0. And 2 goes into 0 0 times. So the answer to my division part would be 120. That is the wrong answer, though. See, what this is 120 total scoops of ice cream that are in a container. Okay? That's not the answer to what the question was. The question was, how much money is she going to earn? And she earns $3 for every scoop. This is the number of scoops. So what you have to actually do is multiply now 120 scoops times 3 to get the amount of money she's going to make. So we're going to do 120 times 3, and this will give me my answer. So 3 times 0 gives me 0. 3 times 2 gives me 6. And 3 times 1 gives me 3. That is how much money she is really going to earn. Number 8, the answer was not 120. 120 is the first step for this problem, but it's not the answer. For number 8, the first step is figuring out it's 120 scoops. The second step is multiplying for this one. Now, these types of problems don't come up too often, but I'd be lying to you if I said they never come up. They will come up, and they will come up out of nowhere. If you are reading over a problem and a problem presents to you enough information for the division section and then starts talking about money as well, you are probably dealing with a problem that's exactly like this. A problem that's going to require you to divide, but then also require you to do some multiplication afterwards. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do another type of trick problem that might show up. This one says Terrence and 3 of his friends are sharing 3/4 of a pizza equally. What fraction of a whole pizza does each person receive? So, for this problem, let me make sure I'm reading it right. Yeah, I'm reading it correctly. So for this problem, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be taking the amount of pizza we have. I know it says over here whole pizza, but we're going to stick with the amount of pizza they told us they have. They have 3/4 of a pizza remaining, and they are going to divide it equally among Terrence and 3 of his friends. That is a total of 4 people that they are dividing this pizza by. All right, so these types of problems, you will need to read very carefully and see how many people are they really dividing it by. And it'll usually be talking about pizza or candy or cake. So for number 9, we set up our problem, done. Step 2, rewrite it to make sure there are no whole numbers, because we can't have that 4 there. So we get 3/4 divided by 4 over 1. Okay. Step 3 is keep, change, flip. So keep my first fraction the same, change to multiplication, and flip my second fraction. We're then left with 3 times 1 on the top, which is 3, and 4 times 4 along the bottom, which is 16. And although it kind of looks like you can simplify this problem, you can't. 3 and 16 don't have any common factors. You can't divide them by the same thing. And it's a good thing, too, because that is our correct answer choice, which is answer choice B, 3/16. So I think I'm only going to do one final problem with you. The rest of this is going to be up to you. All right, I've given you enough that you are guaranteed to, at the very least, get a 50 on this assignment. All right, so after this problem, The rest is kind of up to you. You can rewatch this video, you can take notes, you can make sure you're going back and forth. I am not going to be putting a limit on this. You can do as many retests as you feel you need to. This is not meant to be a quiz. This is not a test. This is not an exam. This is kind of a preview, but also the best way that I knew to give you some word problems that could legitimately come up on a test. So, with that out of the way, let's do our final problem, which is number 10. Amanda has 2/3 of an hour left to write thank you notes. It takes her about 1/9 of an hour to write each note. How many thank you notes can Amanda complete in the time she has left? So, we're going to take the total amount of time she has left, which is 2/3 of an hour, and we are going to divide that by how long it takes for her to write each note. So that's going to be 2/3 divided by 1/9. I don't see any mixed numbers or whole numbers, so I can go straight to keep, change, flip, which is 2/3 times 9/1. All right, so we get 2 times 9 for the top, which is 18, and 3 times 1 for the bottom, which is 3. And we can see from our answer choices, it does have to be a whole number. So when I look at this and I see 18/3, we know that means 18 divided by 3, which is 6. So number 10, the correct answer was C. And that is going to do it. Make sure when you are punching in your answers that you are being very careful to enter the correct answer for the correct number. I did not scramble the answer choices or the questions, so everything is in the same order for each attempt. And that is going to be it. This is a homework slash classwork assignment. I am going to be collecting a grade for this. The grade will be collected tonight. So do not plan on putting this off until tomorrow because the grade is going to be going in tonight. And that is going, no, it won't go in tonight. I'm sorry. It'll go in tomorrow at the very start of class. So if you're in fourth block, it'll actually go in at about 11 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning because that's when second block is going to start. And that is going to do it. Good luck. First block, if I timed all this correctly, you should have about 30 minutes left in class. And if you are watching this in fourth block, you should have somewhere about 45 minutes left in class to continue working as well. And that's it. Good luck, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.